Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 6th season, we are looking at the Avengers. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, and today Hulk gets a pew-pew shower.
Kind of sounds gross the way that you just said that.
Only
that's right.
You're the one who makes it gross. The receiver is the one who makes it gross.
All right. Then it's all on me. That's right. Today we're talking about minute 100.
Which is what Hulk said.
I'm covered in pew-pews.
Today we are talking about minute 123, which begins with close-range arrow fighting and ends with a bird in motion. As you heard, we have back on the show Sword Boy himself, Robin Burdge. Hello, Robin.
Hello, everybody. I am so happy to be here to represent the popular Feist single 123.
How many references to different 1, 2, 3s can we come up with over the course of this?
I don't know.
That's right.
You can.
I mean, it's just like ABC, Andy.
Yeah.
I was going to go to Billy Wilder and his fantastic movie. Oh, okay, that's a little bit of a dud with this audience.
You did it.
What are you going to do?
You did it.
Somebody had to kill it.
You went old school. You tried to hit it out of the park. That was caught.
I was just Steve Martin in the bus saying, how about this? 3 coins in the fountain, each one seeking happiness.
The kids are not going to get any of this.
Nope.
All right. We are coming in. This is kind of this heavier moment in the film where everyone's kind of getting, as they've all been doing their fighting, they're all kind of starting to get to a place where they're running out of arrows, as we find out here. They're kind of each getting pinned down in some capacity. We're following right after Iron Man has had his little, confrontation with the inside of a Leviathan and then is surrounded by Chitauri. Here we have Hawkeye, and he is in action, taking down Chitauri. And then this is what happens when he finds out that his quiver runs dry. How does this play for the two of you?
You know what? You're
why
all
does that
out.
sound so funny?
Wow.
No, you're all out of it. You can't comment on anything else I say forever for the rest of this show.
It's your favorite song, Quiver of Dreams.
Right. So can I just give a shout out to arrows actually having a countable value? I love it that he runs out of arrows.
Yes.
Though it does remind you that the only time clearly Hawkeye is shooting arrows is when the camera is on him. Otherwise, he would have run out a long time ago. That's what I think. And so now we get it. But we also get the close-up of the quiver and how the quiver works in action. And I really, really like that, too.
It is cool.
Yeah.
I think it's funny when we see the top of his quiver as he reaches back. It's designed purely for shafts, and I don't know how he actually gets the arrows out. Like, you can see a whole bunch of holes for each of the arrows. This is only about a second into this movie, but it's like once the arrowhead attaches itself to the shaft, how does it come out? How does it get out of those?
It's just stuck.
It's not going to make it out. I don't know.
That's really funny. I've never noticed that.
Yeah, I was analyzing this thing, the auto quiver, I was calling it.
Right.
And I did not even notice that. But I see how things are loaded. I've definitely got lots of questions about how it's loaded. I mean, there's 3 buttons on the bow. Does that mean there's only 3 arrowheads to choose from? And which one is the boxing glove?
I think it is. I think it's a back forward, like forward, reverse, and select.
Oh, yeah.
Option. And because it's like a rotating thing. And I think what he said, he just knows how many, or there's some sort of haptic thing in the handle of the bow where he's getting notified where he is, and he recognizes, okay, stop at the grappling hook, select, screw, fire.
And I thought you were going to go down the road of what we were doing with Captain America and the buttons on his motorcycle handles, like top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. What's the combination of button pushes that he does to release each of the things? I thought it was going to be the same thing, like Hawkeye's
left,
video game console
up, down,
here.
up, down.
Right, exactly.
Poor Hawkeye's trying to engage God mode and he's getting fired upon.
He is. Why won't it work in real life?
Yeah, right. But his quiver, I mean, despite the fact that he can't actually get an arrow out once he puts the head on the arrow, it looks like it holds about 32 arrows in total, like shafts. But I was wondering, like, how many heads? Because obviously he has more heads than he did shafts, because he's going to reach an extra head right now,
Right.
as we see. But I was wondering, like, what's the ratio? Like, does he try to keep this over abundantly full, so he'll never run dry, assuming he can get more, like, pull more shafts out of victims?
Well, we're really just kind of treading on such dangerous territory of discussion here. I'm really trying hard not to make any notes, any jokes.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible that Hawkeye's quiver is magical? Is that what we're coming to? Is that the shocking realization of this minute?
It may be, or maybe he's used them all, and the only thing he has left, which he just hasn't had use for, is, of course, the grappling hook, which he's going to use. And that's just, so he always, my hunch is it's probably like he keeps a variety of, like, the exploding arrows and the ones that split into a bunch of different blasts, like those sorts of things. He kind of does just a grab bag mix. But then, like, this is one where he only has probably one grappling hook in here, and it's just a standby in case he actually needs it. But I imagine that his ratio is probably pretty comparable to what he actually has, you know? Because, I mean, I would assume that he actually uses some arrowheads that can be reused. I don't think that they all blow up.
But how does he put them back in?
I mean, if he pulls it out of a Chitauri, and he can reshoot it, right? Assuming that the head didn't blow up, but if it did, then that's when he runs into the issues.
I think when he pulled it out of the Chitauri, it didn't have an arrowhead on it, and that's how he could load the grappling hook onto this. What I think is a shaft probably covered in Chitauri guts, which, again, there's a whole cleaning process, I'm sure, to this quiver if you're reusing arrows.
Yeah, it's a sanitation cycle. I think is a sanitation cycle. What we see in the quiver is, you're absolutely right. All we see is the bare threaded shaft head. Like there is no arrow on there. But does that not imply that possibly when the second he puts an arrow with a head on it in the magical quiver, it automatically unscrews and readies to be rethreaded with a new head? It just seems strange to me. Like, so he shoots the arrow into the Chitauri.
Yeah.
And then pulls it back out, and there's no arrowhead on it. Where did the arrowhead go? Did it magically unscrew in the Chitauri viscera?
But again, that's like, it seems to be defeating the purpose of making it reusable if it's not an exploding head. Like, if there's a head on it, and again, I know, like, the design of arrows, they make it hard to get out. Either you push it through, or it's very painful processing. Again, that's if they're still alive. Yeah. But it still is going to be hard to, like, yank a head out of the Chitauri as quickly as he does and needs it here. So it's possible that with enough pressure, it's designed to just pop off. Still, it seems to defeat the purpose of making it reusable.
It absolutely does.
Maybe there's, being a skilled arrow guy, maybe he realizes, I'm going to run out of arrows eventually. I'm going to need to reuse some shafts. Maybe there's, like, a little button release on the flag part of the arrow that releases the head, and you just can quickly pull that out and then shove it back into your quiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can actually see that, like a quick release, a quick head release.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That would
also, this is weaponry created by S.H.I.E.L.D., which, of course, gets some of its technology from the Tesseract, right? So there could be some Tesseract technology inside his quiver that we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
I like the idea that the arrowhead itself was like a Tesseract blue goo tip. And when he shot it into this Chitauri right at the start of the minute, that it actually, like, explodes inside of him and just, like, it evaporated most of his innards.
Right.
Huh. Yeah.
Why not?
So that's interesting, Mr. Bateman.
and getting even more gory, I'm assuming when you pull the arrow out of the Chitauri, it's covered in guts. Like, it would have been a lot more realistic if you just quickly saw Hawkeye, like, wiping the arrow on his pant leg before he shoved it back.
Yeah, right.
Or does it go, like, through, like, an alcohol solution or something to really, like, sterilize it?
Yeah, right. Is there, like, right below all that series of holes we see at the top of his quiver, is there, like, a sterilizing
bath?
rinse that it runs through. Yeah.
Like, this might not be blue Tesseract energy in there.
It's probably just UV light, really, because why would Hawkeye want to walk around with just like this constant fountain of cleansing alcohol in his quiver?
Right.
I thought maybe the blue stuff that the barbers put their combs in.
Right.
Like
Barbasol
sloshing around back there.
I would not have expected us to get a Barbasol reference on this show ever. Congratulations, Robin Bird.
His other career is cutting hair. That's why everyone on the Avengers has such sharp haircuts.
Yeah.
I like the idea, though, now, like, as Clint is fighting and rolling around and stuff, there's this constant sloshing that goes along with him.
Yeah. We didn't know that as a character beat, Clint Barton is a dramatic germaphobe.
Right.
He's just always cleaning stuff, including all his arrowheads.
Right. And what we didn't see when Tony dropped him off up on the roof here is that he offered him some hand sanitizer.
That's also in his handle. Like, that's the third button. It just squeezes stuff into his hand.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, is there a way to recover?
Yeah. Right. So, all right, Hawkeye. We've got this Hawkeye moment here. And I guess, we haven't asked yet, Robin, but is this specifically the reason that you picked this minute, or is it when we jump into the moment with Hulk in a little bit? Or is it, I should say, Hawkeye's descent, we'll call it?
Honestly, both, because the Hulk moment you remember from the trailer, but the Hawkeye moment is like twofold cool. I'm not sure if it was in the trailer or not, but it was definitely a memorable moment, just like a yes moment in the theater.
Sure.
But also there we see the other side of this on the Hawkeye TV series.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a whole other perspective from Kate's window she was watching.
So now when I rewatch The Avengers, I imagine a young Kate Bishop, like in an apartment building across the way that we're not seeing in this movie, watching all this action happen. And, that was kind of a cool way to start off that series, by the way. It's just like, wow, this huge moment from The Avengers, and they're now seeing it from a certain point of view. Different.
So good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So smart.
It's, the move itself, well, let's, since you've already brought it up, I just want to, location-wise, kind of discuss what we're looking at here, because I've never, again, not having been to New York, not really kind of paying that much attention to where they are over the course of the film. But as he does his leap and we cut to the God's eye view looking straight down at him as he shoots the grappling hook arrow right past us, we actually are seeing the viaduct right below. And you can actually see Grand Central Terminal off on the left. And actually the building that I'm assuming is where Kate lives is right across the street. That's the building that Hulk has already kind of smashed up a little bit as he first jumps up and lands on the building that Barton's jumping from, grabs that first Chitauri, and then jumps across to the other side, smashing that Chitauri into the windows, grabbing another Chitauri, and then tossing him through a window as he bounds off. So that building that Kate lives in already has had a bunch of damage from Hulk as he's kind of bounding around and smashing things up.
I'm aghast. This is obviously, we're coming out the end of July, but we are recording. I can destroy the illusion a little bit. We're recording like the day after Father's Day, and to learn that the Hulk might have killed Kate's dad just astounds me. It shocks me. Like, why doesn't she have some sort of vendetta against the Hulk?
Right.
An extra layer for Kate to battle through.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because that certainly is never brought up. Like, weirdly, I don't think that show ever really addresses which building it is that specifically, or ties it into the fact that this. Plus, not only did Hulk destroy part of this building, but there's a Chitauri inside of it running around somewhere. Right. He threw it through the window. Yeah. So that's all really interesting. And just like I like now, having kind of paid more attention to all of these the bits of minutia as we do, that we are actually seeing the viaduct below where the team had been battling earlier. It's just one of those things that I'd never really noticed before. And if you look carefully, you can also see all the green umbrellas from the Pershing Cafe where Beth, our waitress, had worked.
Right. May I transition to the grappling hook?
Well, yes. The grappling hook, and let's also make sure we talk about the fantastic gymnastic ability of Clint as he jumps off and spins himself around to shoot this.
The dude's a cat. He is a cat.
Oh wait. May I interject before we get into that?
Oh, please.
Just a real quick interject. I watched Shazam 2 for the first time last week, and I know it's DC, whatever, but they had this whole scene where there was chaos in the city street. And there was this woman that looked so much like the waitress from the Avengers nearly get killed. I had to actually go on to IMDb and go, is that Ashley Johnson? It wasn't her, but I was
wasn't her.
Come on. They knew what they were doing.
That would have been amazing.
It really looked like we're going to give this same character a beat in a DC film. But I think they just wanted to kind of invoke the memory of.
That's so funny.
It does make me wonder if she's like building a career off of just like bit server parts that ultimately mostly get cut, but then she might die. Yeah.
That's a dark trajectory for your career.
Yeah.
I'd really like to do this. Yeah.
What's going on with this grappling hook? So this hook is able to hit the stone hard enough to find purchase. What's going on with that cable?
Well, it's what you'd call a spaghetti with a bunch of penne pasta. It's kind of like what your kids make for you in school for Father's Day, speaking of.
Yeah.
That's
it kind of looks like a Lego, like something made out of Legos. And I just don't understand it because I think it's cool. I just don't know why. It feels like it almost can compress upon itself to fit inside the arrow shaft.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it has to do. First of all, the fact that small grappling head can embed itself deep enough into a wall.
Yeah.
And catch a body. I mean, let's just say Clint is, 120.
Got Jeremy Renner's solid muscle, Andy. Give him 145 easy.
Okay. Yeah. All muscle. He's just a big walking muscle. And falling. So with all of the momentum of his mass falling, it can hold it. And that's what's amazing. I don't know if the design of that hook, I mean, it doesn't look like it has any give. I would have assumed that it would need to have give in order to kind of like not rip the grappling hook out of the wall instantly, but it doesn't show that. But you're right. I don't understand exactly like the weird, I was thinking of like those, remember those jump ropes that like you'd have in gym class where it wasn't a rope, it was like a cable inside, but it had all those little plastic like noodles all along its length. Like that's kind of what it
I hear them skittering against the floor of my gym.
Right?
Yes. Wow, that triggered a
flashback for all of us. Yeah. But that's kind of what it reminded me of. It's just a weird design. And I guess I wasn't exactly sure what they were going for, other than the fact that, as you said, Pete, it looks cool. I guess, right?
It looks cool. I think that's what I'm going for. I think it collapses in on itself, but it still feels like it's breaking some sort of law of compression physics because it's awfully long for him to to fall. Like it just feels like too long. Where is it coming from? I mean, is it somehow still tethered to him? No, it's just in the air, like, where's the hook on? I'm very confused. We're going to now call this the Hawkeye Double Dutch, and I just don't understand how it works. What is he hanging on to? Where's the rope tethered?
I believe, like, you see a spring loading when you see that arrow get loaded. So I wonder, like, at first I think, that's a spring that delivers the arrowhead to the shaft, but maybe it is a part of it. And when you pull the arrow out, you're hooking it onto the bow and then kind of pulling it back like a pinball machine. It's just pooh.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, it kind of feels like the tail of the shaft then hooks something, and maybe there's more cable that comes out of the actual bow magic.
Yeah, or he's got a fanny pack.
This is very confusing. Hawkeye in a fanny pack, please. What is this, 1984?
It is a funky design. It looks like as he's falling, as you're kind of saying, Robin, it seems to somehow, as he shoots it, it somehow has attached that cable to, I don't know, the center part of the bow, whatever that is, where you kind of like the nock where you're resting it, where you're using to aim. Like it seems to have attached to that. But it's
which is what you see when he
bow,
falls. Yeah, when he falls through the glass, you can see him. It kind of releases in the shower of glass and from the bow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, release is up, down, down.
Up, down, left, left, right. Yeah. A, B,
Exactly.
Enter.
It is a funky little tool. It looks cool, but it is one of those things that when you really try piecing it together, it's hard to figure out exactly how it works out.
Yeah.
The most unrealistic part to me is the hook. I just don't see that thing is so little. I have a close up of it right now, and it's so tiny, and how like you could just rely on it to go into concrete with that small of a hook, and and then have it yank and then be enough to hold your weight after yanking on it like that. It just wow.
I just don't buy it.
Right. I mean, it almost is this kind of the what it's latching onto. It's almost as small as the little the cable supports from the one that had the timed missile that he uses to blow up the engine in the helicarrier. You know, it's it's like those cute little cables that it had. Like that's I don't know exactly how it works, but something is going on inside this thing that is doing something.
But he lands.
Regardless, and he does. He swings and he crashes through a window. Again, he's in the building right across from Grand Central Terminal. He crashes in this building, and kind of I feel like, okay, this is the moment that's going to put him out of the film for the rest of the duration, because he's like, did he land on glass? Did he throw his back out? Exactly what sort of pain
broke his back.
is Clint going through at this particular moment?
Yeah, 3 left clicks and 1 right click calls life alert.
Yeah.
I've fallen.
Oh my God, so funny.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
But yeah, talk about realism. I mean, like, how many action movies use this trope of somebody swinging down and then crashing through a window? And I think Die Hard, of course, is probably the first to make it look real, like just have a little spin on it where he's like, oh, he doesn't go immediately crash through the window and he's got it. But this one, it's like he crashed through the window and just like he's on his back and he's like, like that's more realistic than crashing through and then just still running, you know?
Yeah, like a roll and a run to the elevator.
Exactly.
Right.
Although, I mean, but he's actually lucky that the glass did break, because we learned in Die Hard, like, he comes down and the glass doesn't break and he's got to shoot it to get through the glass. And, you know, of course, that would have put Clint in a real difficult spot, since he doesn't have anything he could actually shoot at this point. So I guess it makes sense that the glass just breaks away and he just rolls right in. But, yeah, I mean, it definitely puts him into a position of, ouch, this really hurts. I don't know how much more I can do. Again, he's one of our non-supers who's actually doing all this fighting. But again, this is this point in the fight where everyone's kind of isolated and they're all hitting this point where they're kind of running into being exhausted from the fight. Because as we cut to our next scene, you know, we have Hulk. He's on the rooftop of some random Cleveland building meant to be New York. And he's also kind of getting outmanned, outgunned, outnumbered, and having to figure out how he's going to move on. So let's, unless you have anything else about Hawkeye, let's shift over to Hulk at this point. I mean, what, as far as like the nature of this and Hulk and everything he can do, I mean, how does this play for you? Does it make sense? Do you kind of like the way that this scene unfolds?
I do like it to begin with. There is one point where he it starts off with him smashing 2 of their faces into the ground. Cool. Then he kicks another one, and then another one comes up from behind him with a staff, and it looks like he's about to ding him in the back. And then Hulk just kind of grabs him without looking, which then goes, does he have Hulk sense? Like, did he hear him coming from behind? Because he just like grabs him and throws him
by the head.
Yeah. But he doesn't even look at the guy.
Right.
I go for Hulk sense. I like that he has Hulk sense.
You're just so angry, I can sense things around me.
Right.
What's kind of funny, and I don't know, honestly, like what they were planning with this, but the way that Hulk was just moving after having kicked that other Chitauri, it almost looked like he's getting ready to punch something, and that Chitauri just ends up with his head right in the way, and Hulk grabs it and like looks like, oh, where did you come from? Okay, I'll just throw you.
Yeah. It was his Chitauri cell phone. Right. Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't know if that's, I guess I have to look at it that way, because otherwise it's nothing but Hulk sense, which kind of makes no sense.
Yeah. It makes Hulk sense.
It makes Hulk sense.
It makes no Hulk sense.
But
So then we get then he's surrounded from above.
Well, that's I guess the interesting thing is like he gets hit in the back by a blue pew pew, and he turns and realizes that there's if you count these, it's about 21 Chitauri chariots above him. That we see the Chitauri at the center who kind of raises his arm like a gladiator, like the emperor at a gladiator event. And lowers his arm, and they all open fire on him. And it's just massive fire and destruction. And Hulk is kind of like buried in this smoke and fire. We see him inside of it. To the scope of Hulk and everything that we expect, I guess it doesn't seem like something he couldn't get out of. It seems like, well, just jump and he'd be fine. But
yeah, just jump. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, it feels like they're just this is we need us to, as you were saying earlier, we need a narrative bit to slow down and make it feel like everybody is kind of being overrun, even though, based on the reality they've set up in the movie already, Hulk would jump. He would jump and start throwing these things against one another.
I gotta say, it is yet another trope that's kind of flipped on its head with these guys. They're not going to go in one at a time. They're all going to stand hover far away and all shoot at them at once, which is a much better idea when you're facing a superior opponent. Like, oh no, you first. No, everybody fire at once. And it's kind of a cool sight.
Oh, it's a great sight. But even you can see when we get the sort of inside the cloud of fire, of pew pew fire, like he's not, they aren't making any impact on his skin, the pew pew. It just feels like he's waving it off, right? I mean, we're not seeing any cuts or scrapes.
I think he's just overwhelmed by the explosions, and I don't know, that last part, it really, I wrote down in my notes, I think he's yelling in pain. I think it's so much hitting him at once that it's either that or he's just like really frustrated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess that's part of it. It's like in the scope of what we've seen from Hulk in films so far, it's only been, at least as far as the MCU is concerned, the Incredible Hulk and this. And so putting him into a situation like this where so many things are happening at once, it's not like he can bat one Chitauri. It's like he's kind of overwhelmed by all these Chitauri. And in a way, it kind of, I think there's something that's comparable when you look at something like in Star Trek Beyond, when the enemy is overwhelming because there are so many and they're all small.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a big ship that they're attacking. It's like you can blast, but you're only going to hit a few that are in that area where your blast hit. And Hulk is kind of that big spaceship, and these are all those pesky little ships that he's trying to fight. Like, he can jump up and hit, but he's just doing like a one at a time thing, whereas they'll continue pounding him. And so I think that there's an element to that of the type of attack you do when you're fighting something like him. And as you're saying, Robin, I think clearly something is bothering him, because this is a situation where he's may not be pinned down, but there's enough happening at once where it's kind of putting him in a place where he's inactive.
Mm-hmm.
He should have played Beastie Boys. That would have taken care of everything.
Right.
If only. Yes.
Let's just note that Andy just equated Hulk to the Enterprise, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Hulk is Enterprise.
It only took 123 minutes to get here.
There is a little bit of dodgy CGI when it's a cool look when he's looking up and he's like surrounded. And I love the look of like this one person is overwhelming odds around him and just facing off. But it does look like there's a bit of copy and paste of the Chitauris. Like they're all kind of looking the same except for the couple in the middle.
That's funny.
Yeah, the nature of visual effects. I mean, this is something that I definitely notice as I do this in kind of this moment by moment, minute by minute, second by second sort of watch. Because even when Clint was leaping off the roof, like some of the explosions going on behind him with him in the background look pretty fakey. As he's doing his little turn and spin, there's this one little fire chunk that's falling off to his kind of screen left at about 21, 22 seconds. That just looks like it's total, like all those little slow-mo fire pieces that are falling, they just look CG'd in there. And so there's definitely, in a big fight like this with lots of CG, and as we record this, the Flash has come out, and that has its own issue.
Here we go.
Of
Here we go.
CG.
Andy's going to unleash.
I'm just saying, we're in this era where these studios are wanting more and more to create these big CG fests in these films, and the visual effects artists are all very overtaxed trying to accomplish what the filmmakers are wanting to achieve, and not always doing a great job. It's a lot of ask.
Yeah.
And we're going to constantly be running into this. And I think the longer we're stepping away from these films, I mean, this film is now, 11 years old, we're going to see more and more stuff that just looks a little dated or copied and pasted or just completely faked. And it's always going to be an issue. But
the difference is, I think this movie is representative of the time this movie was made and of state of the art of the time this movie was made. Like, I feel like they did exactly what they needed to do with what they were capable of doing. And when you bring up The Flash, it is a sign of the times there too, that it is a sign of exhausted teams of VFX workers being asked to do too much too fast. That's kind of the difference to me. I'm much more forgiving of the kinds of things that look a little fakey in the Avengers than I am The Flash, for sure.
But were you in Ant-Man and the Wasp, sticking to the MCU?
Yeah, it also had some really dodgy stuff going on there for the same reason that The Flash did. Like, I thought The Flash was a more egregious example of it because they were trying to make things that were real look real and did not. And Quantumania were making cartoon things that in large part felt like they're already creating things that don't exist, and so they're less grounded to me. Even though it looked wonky, it did not look anywhere near as wonky as The Flash. But I do think that it is a sign of the times in Marvel's VFX universe, for sure. It's going to be remembered that way, I think.
Well, and for the first big team-up movie, I imagine that they were doing everything they could to make everything look as good as possible. So it is interesting, though, when you do have a moment with this massive group of these floating Chitauri there, where they do all kind of have this little cut-and-paste sort of feel to it. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah, massive team-up movie that probably should have gotten a lot of, just like Justice League, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, this takes us to the last part of our minute. Now the World Security Council has taken over. They're not letting Fury make these decisions. We hear good old Jenny Agutter, one of our members of the World Security Council. We hear her come in over the radio talking to this jet pilot and basically say, let's go. And he says, we'll go for takeoff. And then Maria Hill realizes on her screen, as we get at the very end, we have a bird in Mo.
Jenny Agutter, is that American Werewolf in London?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, how many times have you probably been asked this? But
yeah, she's barely in it, but yeah, she's she has a much bigger role in Winter Soldier, when she gets to actually come on screen and play opposite Robert Redford. So
it is lovely when it's a British voice calling for the destruction of New York. Following the trope, all Brits are evil in American action movies.
I have a question. The quote is, Director Fury is no longer in command. Override Order 7 Alpha 11. So is 7 Alpha 11 the override order, or is it the order we're overriding?
Oh, that could have been very confusing. Grammar, order of operations matters.
Yeah.
Shield.
It sounds like, the pilot does, I don't know if this means much, but he has Alpha on his helmet. Like when he turns right around 53 seconds, Alpha is written on his helmet there.
Oh. So I have another extra bit of information that might be helpful. I don't know. We cut to Maria doing some, screen work. And she grabs from her right side a small red window that says 7 Alpha 11 and then drags it over to her second screen where it blows up and shows the jet being geared up to take off. So I'm not sure what that means, but I was like, oh, the words, it says 7 Alpha 11. It's funny. They spell out alpha rather than just like 7A11.
Right.
There was something that I know at some point I had done some digging, but I thought that I had figured out a little bit tied into your conversation about is the order 7 Alpha 1-1, is that related to what they're overriding, or is her override command 7 Alpha 1-1?
She does say 1-1, right? Yeah.
I just Googled it and it brought up the clearance level for S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Cinematic Universe wiki. And alpha level is only Nick Fury and Alexander Pierce. Those are the only members that have alpha level. So maybe they're overriding Nick Fury.
And this pilot's helmet. Nick Fury, Pierce, and this pilot's helmet. Those three.
Wait, is that Robert Redford in that jet?
It might be Robert Redford destroying New York.
Oh, man. If he gave like a thumbs up and a salute to the camera before he took off. Oh, amazing.
Right? There is the whole list of like the clearance levels. There is, aside from like Alpha with Fury and Pierce, a lot of our team is level 7. And so that could be the
level
the
11
7
in the numeric system at all.
But 1-1, I don't know what the 1-1 would do. I don't know. It is interesting. Like, I wonder is that some other code that she's also giving? I just don't know. Regardless, it's something that we'll have to be paying attention to, Pete, between here and when the plane finally gets off the helicarrier. But it did make me wonder, like, why is there a reason that the World Security Council latches onto one of these jets that's on the helicarrier? Presumably, as the World Security Council, they have there's all sorts
other
of
planes.
Yeah, like, why does it have to specifically be here? Obviously, it has to for the film's purposes. We need it to kind of all tie in together. But this speaks to the whole thing about, like, where are all of the other potential people that could be helping? The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the National Guard. Like, where are these groups that could be participating in this?
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, this is a superhero movie. We don't want those people to be involved because we need our supers to specifically be the ones that are doing the work. And so to that end, like, maybe that's another reason why the World Security Council is tapped in specifically with what we have in context of the film, which is the helicarrier. Because otherwise, I mean, there could be jets scrambled from all over the place that could be flying into blast New York.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Lots of stuff to talk about. Very interesting minute to discuss, Robin. Any last thoughts from anything, that you saw as you were revisiting it?
Oh, no, not really. It just kind of made me think of, like, where are all the other people? Is there a moment in this movie where someone comes out and is like, yo, you don't mess with New York? Is there a character in this movie that does that too?
There really should be. I would love it to have been the hot dog vendor. That would have been that would have been fantastic. I think all of them were left for the Spider-Man films, so we don't get to see them in this one, but they certainly...
Oh, man, New Yorkers are owned by Sony. Oh,
yes,
I forgot.
They are. New York is a Sony property, I'm afraid.
Exactly. Yes, all these people had to contractually say, oh, no, I was just playing somebody from Ohio who is visiting New York. I don't actually live here. All right. Well, let's wrap things up for today. We'll have you back next week, Robin, to talk about minute 128, which should be fun. So tell everybody again about Sword Boys and all the other stuff that you're up to out there.
I have a podcast in hibernation called Karate Kid Minute. If you want, or Fright Night Minute, if you want to experience either of those movies 1 minute at a time. Those are out there for you minute by minute people. I also am doing a podcast with my friends Jonathan and Rick, all about movies that basically feature swords primarily. So we just worked our way through Highlander, and I believe as these episodes are coming out, we should be talking about the Beastmaster. And we kind of divide those into like larger, what we call cuts. So the podcast is Sword Boys Cut by Cut. You can find that at swordboys.biz because we're a business, I guess.
When do we meet the power of Grayskull?
Oh, God, it's coming. It's definitely coming. I mean, that's
good. I just want to make sure.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure. Beastmaster is a fun one to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the He-Man I'm dealing with right now. Mark Singer all oiled up.
Yeah, for sure.
The 80s. Good times.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have the links for all those in the show notes. Check those out, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with a different guest to talk about minute TA124. So, Pete, thanks as always.
Tomorrow's podcast is not authorized, Andy. None of this is authorized.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Message to the World by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.